My name is David King. I'm a councillor in North Colchester on both the County Council and the Borough Council. And as to my aims in this respect, is to make whatever difference I can, both personally and with the wider public. Because it's got influence, it's going to help shape what the County Council does, and if it helps shape what they do, it will affect whether people see it or not, their local authority, the world around them, and if it's done well, for the better. So it's a vehicle for influence and change, and God, do we need it? That's why I've joined it. Anybody who's got an awareness of the world, whether they watch the news or read the scientific papers, know that the acceleration of change is extraordinary. You know, personally, in one lifetime, I've sort of noticed the seasons changing. What I remember as an older person is so very different in terms of the normal experience, and the data that backs that up. And it's worse for people who have harder lives in tougher parts of the world than in the UK. So that's why we have to do all we can in every respect to make a change in the way that governments, society, and people show that their awareness is shaping their actions. And what do I do personally? Well, I try to, in a very small way, change some of my own patterns. So I'll put off buying a car, as that's hugely energy consumptive. I cycle everywhere, that's good for me. I support active travel. I use as little plastic as possible. I lead a life that's rather more aware than certainly it was, and I try and share and shed that awareness with others, friends, family, those I can influence, both in my part of Essex and more widely. So again, back to why do I join the Commission? Because I can exert in a small way, I hope, a positive influence, and then bring that to bear locally and more widely. Every little bit really does matter. Well, we got widely acknowledged as about as good as can be climate emergency plans for change, and what that has to be underpinned by is perhaps more important than anything else, is by instilling into all our practices as a local authority an awareness of climate change, environmental crisis, and ensuring that decision making looks at what technology can do more effectively for us than before, how we might reduce our emissions and our impacts. And so we're looking at buildings, their occupation and their running. We're looking at installations and grants. We're helping local people by administering government processes and grants, for whether it's for insulation or otherwise. So we're looking at our own practice and then our impact upon our part of Essex, and we're taking steps which, in the longer run, others I hope will also take to change our fleet, to change our operations, to change the way that we work, and we're reducing our emissions along the way. We're starting to get the first continued positives. We started early in Colchester, earlier than many local authorities, so it's more of the same. It's working away at all we can do. And in and amongst that are some fantastic projects for greening and protecting our environment. I think we're only at the very beginnings of it, that is the honest answer. I'm no longer in the ruling administration, but certainly in my time, you got half the listening ear only from businesses preoccupied, understandably, by their daily priorities. How do we gauge them? We raise their issues that matter most, and this is one of the most important. When we get the opportunity, we draw them in to our own decision making. We help them as individuals. After all, they're people like you and I, to sort of think about what their contribution and impact might be. But it's tough. People have got their daily preoccupations, and so do businesses. So it's a conversation, it's an engagement, it's a fact sharing, and it's a use of the tools that we've got. And we're making some progress, but we have to acknowledge how much further we have to go. It's playing our small part in that bigger picture of national and local awareness of climate change and its impact and our need to respond to it. It's a journey, and it's a long one. To be honest, I'm doing my own learning on this. The headlines are easy. We will start to talk about green jobs, green businesses. The truth is, it's an extraordinarily complex picture of technological change and opportunity, where the promises would always be greater than the delivery is just unavoidable. All we can do is make sure that in our small way, we do offer opportunities when they come to local businesses. We set an example in terms of how we think and act sustainably, and we raise awareness. We can't do that for people if they're not wanting to do it. We can't make businesses aware of their own opportunities if they themselves don't see them, but we can play our part in making sure, by connecting them to research and other awareness, that they see how their business might grow, how their business might change. So as I say, the headline from my perspective is really easy. We're at the beginning of a tide of interconnected revolutions in the way in which people will be working, not least driven by the pandemic. This kind of conversation from a distance is now so much more natural than it was before. I think it's working always with the grain of human behavior and allowing people and helping people to see what's possible. Much as anything else, it's going to be sentiment that will drive change, and that's made up by the actions, the thoughts and the views of all of us. And all we can do for businesses, in my view, is to, in our small way, help them, whether it's by grant, direction, connection to the best of research and the best of advice to see where they could prosper. Woodland and Biodiversity Project is one of those things that, there are not many, but this is one I take real pride in. I helped start this 3 years ago in Colchester, but it's grown. There must be a pun in there somewhere. And it started off very simplistically. Let's go plant trees because that's good for the environment. And that swiftly got the rebuke it required. It led us to refine and change the project. And before I handed oversight of that on to my successors in May of this year, it had changed into, as I say, a biodiversity project. So what we have now, Woodland Biodiversity Project in Colchester, is, I think, a great nationally recognised example of what you can do. So we're planting tens of thousands of trees, 28,000 in the last couple of years, 34,000 planted this year. But we're doing something, as I say, much more sophisticated. So very location aware, very sensitive to the trades between different forms of species and the different impacts of what we do in one place with another, and the need for humans to have their place as well. So wildflower encouragement, insect propagation, mow, working with local communities to see what they want, so that they own what happens, helping them to feel that their environment is theirs, encourage them to take their part in planting. So, as I say, started simple, it's grown in its complexity. Now we're looking at Cymbeline Meadows, which is above the river in Colchester, what we can do to encourage wilding, which we're doing elsewhere, what we can do to encourage wetland preservation and growth elsewhere, looking at tiny forests. It's an extraordinary project that is growing, no pun intended, And in the process is involving hundreds, and over time it will be thousands of local people, whether it's to plant, to nurture, to care for, to be guardians of their trees, to be guardians of their environment, that emotional connection with the world around them, which I think will be as important as how many trees we plant or how many wildflowers we can encourage. It's that awareness of the world we're in. That's one of the great things we're starting to see come through. Long way to go, has to be a generational project, nothing like planting a tree. Indeed, to be aware that it's generational. What we plant today as older people will be the trees our youngsters, as they grow old, will shelter underneath. And it's that sentiment of connection to the environment that's at the heart of the project, and it's evolving, let's say, as we go. It's making a real impact locally. It's one of the few things that most people are fully behind. It's cross-party, community owned, council delivered with the help of volunteers and others. So fantastic greening project in and around Colchester Borough.